So hey there fellow YouTubers, Frank Bush here again. So in today's video, I want to kind of walk through some of the advanced functionality that you can achieve with the Ultimate Ridgeline. So in the last video I put out, I showed a do-it-yourself project of exactly how I built out these Ultimate do-it-yourself Ridgelines. And in this video, I want to show kind of how I can step it up a notch using this technology to do Trotline. So in a few videos back, I showed how to do a do-it-yourself Trotline to use for fishing when you're out in the fields. That really required nothing but paracord and some fishing hooks. So in this video today, I'm going to show how you can replace that Trotline entirely with the do-it-yourself Ridgeline. So what I've got here is some hooks, some sinkers, and I've brought along another Ultimate Ridgeline that I've built out. And with this one, I just used brighter cordage, then that way it's easier to see on the camera. So I'll shift camera angles here now, and I'll go through the setup of turning a Ridgeline into a Trotline so you can use it for fishing when using the Ultimate Ridgeline, yeah? Okay, so what I'm going to do as the first step, if you will, is I'm just going to use this tree right here, and I'm going to use this tree right here, and I'm just going to set up the Ridgeline so I can start to work with it, yeah? So I'm simply going to come over to the tree and hook on. So I'm attached to that side. Slide out two of the Prosec knot lines that I have. And like I say, if you don't know exactly this setup and what I've done here, go back and watch the previous video that I put out right before this one, and it'll show you the exact do-it-yourself build out for this, yeah? But now I'm just going to simply come over to the other tree. I'll take one of my Prosecs around. Bring it back. Just drop the rest of that. And now I'm just going to hook my Prosecs together and lock them in. And apply a bit of tension. And like I say, this Ridgeline is up now and it's taut, so I have no concerns in that regard. And if you want to make it even tighter, like I say, in the last do-it-yourself, the Ultimate Ridgeline video that I put out, you'll see how I can easily set that up on that end as like a trucker's hitch, so you can get extreme amounts of tension. But what I have now is, on this setup, I've got multiple Prosec knot lines that I've put, and like I say, this can easily just be used as a functional Ridgeline setup, you know, just as it is, and like I say, detailed in the last video. But I'll shift camera angles and I'll come up close now, and I'll show you the simple mod that I do to this to make it useful as a Trotline for fishing. So now, as you can see, I've just turned around and spaced out these Prosec attached knot lines that drop off, and they're just every couple feet down the line, yeah? You just space them out to make sure that they're not too close to each other. So now when it comes to the fishing hooks, just to show you, so they've got a little bit of leader lines that are just attached to them already. These are all readily available stuff. You can get this at the hardware store, and I've got some little sinkers, some little removable split shot sinkers, and they're really just to help keep the line down when it's in the water, yeah? So all I'm going to do is turn around and take these hooks now, and I'm just going to pull them out, set them down. And it's not the most elegant keeping this all on camera, but such is life. So I'm just going to pop a sinker now. Like I say, people that are into fishing and that kind of stuff, this is all old hat to them. But I'm just going to pull out a sinker out of the container, as you can see, and I'll split. Now these are really easy. You just turn around and take one of my fishing hooks now, and you can see it's got that little bit of leader line on it, and all I'm going to do is clamp that sinker on to the leader line. Just pull out my pocket knife here. 2 seconds. Now all I'm going to do is turn around and make sure that that line is set in really well. And I'm just gonna clamp that sinker onto it. That way it's not going anywhere. And now that's just part of that line, if you will, yeah? So you can see nothing to it. So I'm going to turn around and do that to the other 5 that I have sitting here. Like I say, there was 6 hooks in the set. So I'll just turn around and apply those now as the next step, yeah? So now you can see, super simple. Nothing complex involved here. I just turn around and attach the lead sinker to each one of the fishing hooks, yeah? So now all I have to do now is just attach these on to those orange Prusik knot lines that I have sitting on my Ridgeline, yeah? So I'll shift camera angles now and we'll go do that. Okay, so now we're back to the orange lines here, the knot lines. And I'm just gonna try to do this as close as I can, but there's an eye that exists in the fishing line, yeah? All I'm gonna do is pop that eye through the last knot loop that exists on my lines. And then I'm just gonna feed the fishing hook. And I'm gonna feed that sinker, and it's a snug fit. So make sure your sinkers are not too big, or you have to apply them after the fact, but then it'll be hard to get it off, right? So one way or the other, you just simply kind of loop strap it on there, as seen, as such. And now I'm on. That fishing line is attached and it's rock solid. And it's not going anywhere. So just kind of pan down. And I know that it's hard for the camera to kind of get justice, but you can see that hook now, which is down here, is hanging a good couple feet down below this ridge line. Let me just move back a bit here, see if I can catch this on camera better to give you an idea of the size in which I'm dealing with here, to show the top of the ridge line. So the top of the ridge line's right here. Like I say, got 6-8 inches there, just the knots, and then you got another 6 or 8 inches where that hook is sitting on the bottom. So it's really just that simple. I can go along now to each one of these orange Prusik knot lines that I have and just hook on my fishing gear, and you could see there was nothing to hooking on. And it's the same with wanting to take it off. I just reverse what I've done there, and it's easy enough to pop this back off. So I'll turn around and hook on all 6, and I'll show you this as kind of a finished setup trot line. So not only can you use this as a ridge line for setting up tarps and that kind of stuff around camp, but in the daytime, when you've torn down all your camp and you're mobile, you want to stop and fish, in a matter of 10 minutes or so, you can have this set up. And then I'll try to show a scene of a lake here that's nearby and show the kind of terrain where it's easy enough to set this out onto, yeah? But one way or the other, I'll just go and throw these hooks on now, and then I'll cut back and tell you exactly how long it took to get those in place, yeah? Okay, so it took about 1.5 minutes or so to hook these on. Really quite quick, really. But as you can see now, I know the camera is going to have a hard time seeing these hooks and that, but we got hooks now on each one of these setups as we go along. And really, really simple to hook on. Nothing to it. And all I did was just space out these lines every couple feet to make sure that the hooks weren't really interfering with each other. And it's just that easy, you know. I can now turn around and use this setup with 6 hooks on the line. I can now turn around and use this setup as an effective trot line. And it's easy enough to just attach, just as I have to the trees here, attach to 2-6, potentially just drive them down below the water line, so that this whole setup was submerged into the water, and yet there was enough depth where the hooks weren't just sitting on the very bottom of the, you know, water level, if you will. They're not just sitting on the floor of the water. But one way or the other, really super elementary. But there you have it. Using the ultimate Ridgeline allows me to have the flexibility to do things like this, where not only can I use it as a Ridgeline that's very effective, in my mind the most effective on the planet, but also gives me the ease and capacity to turn around and catch high volumes of fish if need to in a survival situation. Now, it's illegal in my location to turn around and even use trot lines like I have set up here. So be mindful of the laws that exist in your area if you plan on going out and using these types of things. In my perspective, this is purely survival skill knowledge to have, and it's only to be used in extreme emergency situations in the environment I'm in. But whatever the laws are that are in your land will dictate, you know, how liberal you can use these things. But one way or the other, this gives multi-dimensional use to another piece of kit that I have in my bag. And generally speaking, everything that I keep in my bag, I want to be multifunction as much as possible. Normally a Ridgeline isn't very multifunctional. You just use it to set up a tarp and it is what it is. With the Ultimate Ridgeline, it allows me to now use it for far more advanced things, such as this trot line like I'm showing today. So in detaching this setup is just as easy, right? You turn around and slide it back to give yourself a bit of room, and you just pop the sinker back through the eye, you pop the hook back through the eye, and you just slide it off. Just like that. I'm back to having it as kind of my original kit, if you will. And it's easy enough to just take that setup and put it right back into my hook bag. So I keep everything contained and back exactly as, you know, I originally had it, other than the fact that I've added that additional lead weight. But because they're so small, it doesn't matter. It can just go into this pack, yeah? But then I can keep these pre-made, you know, and you can get fancier than this with these things. I could easily just attach on swivels or other things with the little clips on them that allow me to just clip right onto this. I don't even have to do the looping and stuff that I've just shown here. This was just a simple, cheap, common man thing that doesn't cost much to do, you know, of these hooks and these weights together were about $5. You know, there was nothing to the cost of them. But one way or the other, I just wanted to show this example. And people, like I say, that are savvy with fishing, they might want to switch up to the little clips and stuff where you could literally just clip onto the ends of these orange lines and not bother doing what I've just done here. But I wanted to show this to the most budget way that you can do this, you know, and still have it be an effective setup, yeah? So I'm just going to go and pop all these hooks back off. Like I say, you saw how fast that took. And then we'll switch back to different scenes here and I'll start to wrap this video up, yeah? Okay, so it's been about a minute and a half later. And as you can see, they all just go back into the bag nice and neat. And I can go right back into my bushcraft bag, bug out bag, however you want to see that, if you will. And like I say, you can definitely amp this setup up. This is definitely the most basic structure you can have. You know, ideally you'd want to have the clasps on there that you can just connect on. Potentially you want to switch out having plain hooks for having ones with flies, or have a combination of flies and hooks, and that way if you don't have any bait, you know, you potentially could still effectively catch fish, you know. But to me, having a blend of both would be ideal. But it's really versatile, you know, when it comes to the fishing rigs that you can hook on there. You know, the sky's the limit in that regard. But I'll shift camera angles here and I'll show the just tearing down of this Ridgeline now for people that haven't watched the previous video, to show you how quickly you can kind of get this down and back in your bag, yeah? Okay, so when I want to tear down this setup, it's really as simple as just popping that. I'm off that tree now entirely, and I can just slide these prusiks along the line, and as I go, I'm just pushing them all right to the end. And normally I wouldn't do that if I was using tarred bank line and that kind of stuff. I'll just stop here for a second, pop that one off, and I'm off that tree. So super elementary, but I'm just going to slide on my lines up to this end. Then normally when it comes to this Ridgeline, I wouldn't do that if I was using paracord and tarred bank line. I just do, oh, stick caught into things, of course, classic. Always while I'm recording, right? Stick has to perfectly find its way. But needless to say, I wouldn't normally do that. I just press these prusik knot lines right in as I'm doing my kind of winding up and getting ready for the rapid release for the next use. But because I'm using thinner line here, the size of the knots that are sitting on the line would actually impede on the rapid release portion of this setup. I'm sorry. It's always when I'm recording, I'm picking up everything off the forest floor, right? When I'm out in the field and doing this stuff, it doesn't normally happen nearly as much. But you know, such is life, right? That seems to be the nature of my recordings. When I get down about this much, I'm just gonna stop, press everything together, and then start to wind it this way. And I show this in the previous video as well, of how to kind of do the rapid release of these bundles. And that way when you're out in the field, you can set this whole setup really rapidly. And like I say, I show examples of that in the previous video. This video really wasn't for showing the optimal use of these ultimate ridgelines. It was more for showing the flexibility of, I don't know of another ridgeline that I can use to fish with. You know, the ultimate ridgeline is the only one that I know of that allows me to put together a trot line, as I've shown in this video, in a matter of minutes and switch over my ridgeline to become a fishing tool. You know, and it just it's one of those things to have in the tool belt. If you're using ultimate ridgelines and you're practicing having them out in the field, you'll find there's a lot of different uses you can have for these, and making them as a trot line to fish with is just one of those. Okay, and just for an example, I'm near one of my local lakes that are in my area, and you can see here I've got a tree here and a tree over here where the body of water kind of pushes in a bit. It's easy enough to set across that ridgeline slash trot line into this body of water and start fishing, you know. And if you wanted to be more stealthy and covert about it, be easy enough to walk out into the lake a bit with 2 sticks, you know, for both ends of the trot line, to drive it down into the earth of the bottom of the lake, then have it where the entire setup was submerged, and you could do, you know, stealth covert fishing, if you will, and nobody would even know you're there. You know, you can have similar setups on rivers and those types of things where, you know, there's a bend in the river, you can put a point on shore, move over to it at the other bend, put a point on that shore, and just kind of fish the rivers just in the same nature that you would here, right? But you know, just wanted to show that as a simple example. But if you enjoy this type of content, like, share, and subscribe, and thanks for watching. Yeah, cheers.